Mike back with rock harmonica lesson number 2. I just got through a 15-minute lesson. It was going overtime. I got to find a way to condense it, so I'm going to move fast. If you go to rock-harmonica.com, that's a website that will now host these videos along with some blog material that also coincides with it, mostly because I'm not savvy enough to embed that all into YouTube. So go ahead and follow that link for some more material. Check out the first video if you want to know what our topic is and what we're going through. But today we're going to extend the Mixolydian, and I'm going to lock the magic that is rock harmonica in terms of note choice. And we'll talk a little bit about getting comfortable with that so that we can eventually move to some other scales and then some scale patterns and some of the flashy stuff. But we should kind of have a basic concept of what's going on. So in blues, we usually talk about the blues scale, and we hit on this last video. And then we talked about if we play the Mixolydian scale, which starts on 2-draw. Okay, we've added some notes. And then essentially what you're going to do, if you're going for a rock vibe or some flashy stuff over a blues song, is you're just going to combine the two scales. So why does that work? Well, the Mixolydian scale is all the notes that, well, not all the notes, but the first, third, fifth, seventh degree of that scale make up the chords that are over a blues progression. A blues progression is usually a dominant 7 chord, so in the key of G would be a G7 chord, and the notes that make up that chord are on the harmonica. They're all the draw notes from 2 up. 2 draw, 3 draw, 4, 5, and then back to 6 blow. We have the octave. So the least you need to know, oversimplify it. So those draw notes make up the chords that are blues. Therefore, those notes will work. I can play, we already know this, you can play the 2 draw all day long. Over a blues, we play the 4 all day long, the 5, to that 6 all the time. The note that we don't play all the time is the 3 draw. We usually bend that to closer to B flat. You want to sound rock, you want to sound a little more out, start playing the note that's actually in the chord that you're playing, the 3 draw. Okay, that blue third is stylistic of blues. You want to get away from that, you'll sound jazzier, more rock, more country, more anything by inserting that major third. And so what I can do is just play my normal blues licks. Okay, and instead of the bend, okay, it has a little more rock vibe. It's going to sound a little more upbeat. Because we can play the 3 draw, we can play all the equivalent notes of that. An octave up would be 7 draw, or the 10 half step low bend. Those are all the same note. Okay, you can play all those notes now, and we've opened that up, and you can bounce between both the bend and the unbend, the overblow and the non-overblow. Okay, and so what we do with the Mixolydian mode then is essentially, if we look at all the equivalent notes that are the same across the harp, so like how 1 draw is an octave lower than 4 draw, and is the same note as 8 draw. Okay, again, this assumes you have the basics of, you kind of know where the 10 holes are. The Mixolydian now has opened up the whole harp. We can play anything on the harp, with bends or without. Okay, we can play up and down the harp. All the notes work. Okay, we don't want to play them as chords, and we're not going to worry about tongue blocking right now. I'm playing tongue slaps. But if we're playing clean single notes, we can play anything on the harmonica now over a blues progression, and we've broken the stylistic nature of that, and we've said, okay, the blues scale makes up a set of vocabulary that sounds bluesy, that keeps in that tradition, and now we've opened up to some different sounds, and those work. And guys like Sugar Blue or John Popper, who play real fast, and they play a lot of those major sounding notes, like the third, unbent, like especially over the 1 chord, that works. Now, if you want to sound really bluesy, you don't want to do that. But if you want to mix things up over a blues song, occasionally that's a good way to do it. And so playing things like the 2 blow or the 3 unbent, okay, are 2 notes that we're adding to the blues scale to open things up. So now we have all 10 holes of the harp, right? In the blues scale, we usually don't play the 3 bent down to A, which is the same as 6 draw and 10 draw. That's there now. We can play that. That's part of the Mixolydian mode, part of the scale that makes up the chord that we're playing over. Okay, I'm way oversimplifying it. All you need to understand is we can play all 10 holes now. If you want to play any of the bends, the traditional bends, okay, you want to play any of them, they all work. The two you want to avoid, they all work other than 2. The 2 you want to avoid is you want to bend the 3 all the way down. Excuse me, to that A flat, which would be like bending the 6 all the way down. Now, can you bend it for inflection? Sure, but you don't want to hammer on that note. Those are like the only 2 notes that you can't play. You're an overblow player and you want to throw some of that over blues, okay? To oversimplify it, over all 3 chords, if you want to play the 5 overblow, okay, this is a stock Hohner Rocket, so not the best harp to overblow on, but hasn't really been set up to do that. That'll work. The 6, that'll work. The 7 draw in place of the 4 draw, okay, you can play that. You can play the 8 overdraw, 9 overdraw is actually the same as 6 bent, or that A, so that's one you don't want to avoid. So now we're only 3 notes, including all the bends that we don't want to hammer on when we're playing rock stuff. And then the 10 overdraw works just fine too. The 1 overblow, which would take us then to, I think, 4 notes, would be the 4 overblow. Okay, this harp really isn't set up to do that. Okay, that will work over the 4 chord, but again, to oversimplify things, we're just trying to jam what should we play or not play just over a whole blues progression. Is probably an avoid tone for right now. We can get more sophisticated with that, but the object of this isn't to get into overblows and overdraws at length. But so now we essentially have every possible note we can hit on the harmonica, say 4 bends that are totally appropriate to use, and almost all of those overlap already with blues playing. So we've opened up all 10 holes, and you can jam on all 10 holes, and it'll sound good. The beauty of this, okay, because I know the only reason people are really watching this is to talk about how to play fast stuff on the high end of the harp. Okay, and we can get into that, and we totally will, but we got to know a little bit of what we're doing before we get into that. So that Mixolydian mode lays out great over blues music throughout the whole harp. And it sounds almost like the major scale. It's 1 note different than the G major scale. And it's the 7th chord is flat. That's why we call it a 7th chord, a G7 instead of a G major. As opposed to the major. So we've opened up the whole harp. Notes on this, some of the tabs of the scale, will be on rockharmonica.com. And essentially what we're going to do then is just go into the assumption that over blues music, if we want to sound rock, we want to sound a little more like Jason Ricci, Pat Ramsey, Paul Butterfield, Charlie Musselwhite, some of those guys that use the whole harp or have a unique sound. Sugar Blue, John Popper can definitely be thrown in with that as well when they're playing blues stuff. We can use that Mixolydian mode just as much as we use the blues scale, and really what we can do, which will sound really cool, is we can jump between them. And again, just an example of that is the next time you play, a blues tune is okay. That's a very basic blues line, and now we're going to play that unbent with the 3 draw. We're still going to play the 2 bent, but we're going to put the major 3rd in. That's what's going to sound a little more rock, a little jazzier than blues. can bounce between those two. And if even that's just your takeaway from today is I don't have to play the 3 bent all the time. That's definitely a step in the right direction. So we're going to conclude there for today. So essentially I took 2 lessons to tell you, play the whole harp, play all the bends, and we'll find ways of making them work. And now we'll go through some ways specific to the high end, how that looks and that sounds, so that we can jump into some specific vocabulary and talk about some of the phrasing stuff, because that's really going to be the heart of this. Is the biggest difference between blues and rock is going to be the phrasing and the rhythm we use to phrase, more so than note choice or anything else. So we'll come right back at you. I've been off a couple weeks. I was on vacation. I'm going to try to do one more back-to-back, talking a little more about the high end. Thanks.